Let's talk about how infidelity actually damages the brain. Leslie Wells, connection coach here. I help individuals repair, heal, and improve their relationships by looking at things through an attachment lens. And a big part of what I do with clients is whenever they are going through infidelity or they're experiencing something like that in their relationship or their marriage and they decide to stay, I help them through that. And we look at their attachment wounds, the attachment ruptures, and how we can heal from those things so we can figure out how we got there and then how to heal so those things do not happen again. So first off, if we look at what happens to the brain from someone who has gone through infidelity or a betrayal, we will see that they have the same things that happen to someone who has gone through DV, narcissistic abuse, physical abuse. So it truly is a trauma to that person and a traumatic experience that literally changes the brain. For anyone who has betrayed their partner, I do not want you to sit in any shame about that. I bring a Christian perspective and my clients know that if they want that. And so, if you have repented, you are working on yourself, you've done this one time and you have asked God to forgive you, then know that you were forgiven and know that people make mistakes and we can repair after those. A lot of the couples that I work with actually go through the work and find that their marriage is better than it ever was before. And often it's even better than people who have never walked through this. So I don't want you to sit in shame, but it is important for you to understand what you did for what you did to your partner. And I think that's important because it really helps you understand why it breaks God's heart. And it also really makes you understand why you need to repent. And it also gives you understanding so you can work on that repair process with your partner and know how to pray for them. So there are three brain structures that are affected by infidelity in a person who is betrayed. There is the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, and the hippocampus. And we'll look at each of those and how they play a role. So the amygdala is one of the structures that is affected in the brain whenever a partner goes through a betrayal. And this is the almond-shaped structure in the brain that is your brain's threat center or alert center. And this actually becomes enlarged whenever someone goes through a trauma. And as a result, they become hyper-reactive, very emotionally reactive. They're on edge. It can lead to severe anxiety, depression. It puts them on high alert that they have no control over. It gives them increased fear and anger and rage and really puts them in this position where they're unable to tolerate stress. And we're not even looking yet at what this actually does to the body and the nervous system. We're just talking about the brain. So the next structure that is affected is the prefrontal cortex. And this is the part of your brain that is responsible for your executive functioning. So that means rational thought, planning, being able to understand and comprehend and think through your actions and consequences, so cause and effect. It is the part of your brain that's responsible for being able to control yourself and think things through and not act impulsively, and also being able to plan things. Infidelity affects this part of the brain, or trauma affects this part of the brain. And again, infidelity is a trauma to the brain. What happens in this scenario is the prefrontal cortex will actually shrink and thin. And that leads to not being able to have good impulse control, not being able to rationally think things out. It leads to really bad life decisions. So people often will struggle with substance abuse or bad coping mechanisms, not be able to think things out and respond just impulsively without any forethought. When this part of the brain becomes less active, it leads to just bad self-regulation. And so that's why a lot of times you'll see people that have been on the receiving end of betrayal, they will go out and do the same thing to get back at their partner. They do not have that rational thinking and thinking about the true consequences of their actions and being able to regulate themselves well. And lastly, we have hippocampus, which is responsible for your memory. And so this actually shrinks as well. And this causes people who have been through a betrayal or infidelity to not be able to focus, to not be able to concentrate. They actually lose memory. They can have short-term and long-term memory loss. So a lot of times I'll see couples that are working through this, and the first year is extremely hard for couples that are working through a betrayal. And a lot of times the person who was betrayed, and sometimes the person who did the betraying, will not even remember months or a whole year at a time, because that part of the brain is just not working like it's supposed to. It also is very difficult for them to learn new things during this time. So if they're at a job and they're having to learn new tasks or new skills or new concepts, it's going to be very difficult for them to actually be able to do that. And so they may struggle at work. So if it seems like that person is not all there or that person has completely changed, it's because they have completely changed. Their brain is not working the same. They are having neurological issues because parts of their brain, structures in their brain, have actually enlarged and shrunk and are not actively working the same way as they were before. So if you guys are interested in learning more from a nervous system standpoint and what actually happens to the body and not just the brain, then comment in the comments, learn more.